When people don't like us or make fun of us for what we believe, sometimes we can become discouraged, walk away from the faith, or maybe lash out against them. Well, the book of 1 Peter gives us a different option, a way to be courageous in the face of difficulty while also continuing to show kindness to others. Now, Peter, the guy who wrote this letter, was one of Jesus' close followers, and he spent a lot of time with him. He's portrayed in the stories about Jesus, the Gospels, as somewhat impulsive and boisterous. Now, not long after writing the letters that we call 1st, 2nd, and 3rd Peter, he's arrested and crucified for continuing to claim that Jesus is Lord. Now, he writes from Rome, which he calls Babylon, to Christians scattered around Asia Minor, which is modern-day Turkey. And at this time, Nero is emperor. This is the same Nero who later blames Christians for the fire of Rome, executes them in all kinds of horrible ways, like feeding them to lions or covering them in tar and lighting them on fire to illuminate his gardens. The emperor's a mean dude, in other words, and Peter goes through some really tough times himself. Now, Peter starts this book by providing the reader with an identity that connects them to the Old Testament people of God. And remember, these are mainly Gentile Christians or followers of Jesus who are not Jewish. Yet right at the beginning, Peter calls them God's elect, exiles scattered throughout the provinces of Pontus, Galatia, Cappadocia, Asia, and Bithynia. These are God's chosen people, like Abraham's descendants, who are exiles in the world, like the Israelites, who were after the time of the kings, who are now scattered, a term that the prophets used to describe the Jewish people when they promised that God would come back to gather his people again. Now, Peter continues to explore this identity in the first couple chapters as he says the believers need to gird their loins, like the Israelites did as they prepared for the Exodus. They're called to be holy, like God is holy, just as the Israelites were at Mount Sinai, that they were rescued by the blood of Jesus, like the Israelites were rescued by the blood of the Lamb during the Exodus, that they are the new people who have been given a new heart, as was promised by the prophet Ezekiel, that they are the new temple being built out of living stones. And finally, that they are the ultimate fulfillment of the people of God, as Peter now calls them a chosen people, a royal priesthood, a holy nation, God's special possession. The very promise that was made again to the Israelites as they were at Sinai. Although that promise was made that if they followed God's commands, then they would be this people, Peter simply says, because you follow Jesus, you are God's people. Now, this identity, though, was not to be lived out in defiance or violence towards others to earn or maybe gain their quote-unquote rightful place in the world, but in service, obedience, and kindness towards others. This brings us, I think, to our key verse in the book of 1 Peter. This is 1 Peter 2, verse 12, where Peter says, "Live such good lives among the pagans, the non-followers of Jesus, that though they accuse you of doing wrong, they may see your good deeds and glorify God on the day he visits us." This, says Peter, is how you win over people to following Jesus. Not through defiance or fighting back or arguing or running away from your responsibilities or avoiding publicly claiming Jesus as Lord in order to avoid discomfort. We win them over by doing the things that Jesus did, serving and loving and caring for others.